Warm greetings. Myself, Jagadisha, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering in Canara Engineering College. In this session, we'll cover third semester subject Software Engineering, 18 CS 35. Module 1, Chapter 4. Chapter name is Requirement Engineering. So topics covered in this video session is functional and non-functional requirements. Second topic is software requirement document. So requirement engineering. What is requirement engineering? The process of establishing the services that the customer requires from the system, the constraints under which it operates and it's developed according to the customer requires from a system and this limitation at which it operates and it's developed. A product is nothing but, or system is nothing but the software. The requirements themselves are the description of the system services and the constraints that are generated during the requirement engineering process. So customer gives a description about the system or a software that services has to be done for the end user and their limitation. That only is generated during the requirement engineering process. The description gives a requirement engineering process. What is a requirement? It may range from high level abstract statement of a services or of a system constraints to be detailed mathematical functional specification. As customer gives requirements to the software engineering, and in detail the software engineers will take it in a mathematical notation or mathematical functional specification to for the development of a product. So this is inevitable as a requirement may serve dual function. What are the function? So maybe the basis for a bid for a contractor or maybe basis for the contract itself. These are the two inevitable requirements or function in the requirement engineering. Types of requirement: one is user requirement, another one is a system requirements. So user requirement is nothing but the written by for the customer or to understand as far as the customer requirement. Maybe using writing in a natural language like an English statement, or maybe a diagrammatical as far as the customer requirement, and showing as a proof to understand the whether the his requirement is been designed properly or able to understand, giving a copy to the customer to understand. Whereas system requirement is something like some documented in a diagrammatical, that is diagrammatical notation, or maybe some of the functions what and which team should be designed, what all the function has to be designed is being detailed in a system requirement. As well as is a contract between the client and the contractor is nothing but the contractor is nothing but the developer. So functional and a non-functional requirement, there are two types: functional requirements and non-functional requirements. What do you mean by the functional requirement? Is a statement of a services the system should provide, how the system should react to particular input, and how the system should behave in particular situation. So functional requirement, we can give a very good example. Your VTU website, whenever the VTU results.vtu.ac.in main function, it shows the results of the student. That is the main function. That is the functional requirement of a results.vtu.ac.in. So and at a time only 100 users can view the results. If it is more than 100, then the there will be some server error. So these are some of the functional requirements. This is the same thing, required to particular input. So there is a only for the 100 inputs. So how the system should behave in particular situation, like if it is more than 100 users, so how to behave. Those all those are been done written in the functional requirement. How the system should behave if it is more than 100 users. I am giving on just a small example. Second point, may state what system should not to do. What system should not to do. So it should do it. For example, our VTU results has to show only the results of the VTU student, not the other student. That so there is a what should not to do for the VTU is been designed and is been proposed in the functional requirement. Non-functional requirements. A constraints on the services or a function offered by the system, such as timing constraints. So the server has to be keep on 24/7. That is time constraint. This is non-functional requirement. So main functional to show the results of a VTU students. So non-constraints, that is timing constraints and development process or standards. What are the standards are being used to design the website? All those things are all comes under the non-functional requirements, often applied to the system as a whole rather than the individual features or services. These are all non-functional requirements, like it should give a service 24/7. That is a non-functional requirements, as well as whenever server or once the system get crashes, so it has to recover the data from the repository or some other server. It has to recover the data. So these are some non-functional requirements where it is not involved in the functional requirements. Functional requirements describe the functionality or system services depending on the type of software, expected users, and the type of system where the software is used. Functional user requirements may be high-level statements of what system should do. Functional system requirements should describe the system services in detail. For example, if we consider our online library system, so online library system, the main functionality is to issue a books to the student, and non-functional requirement, non-functional is ISBN number or searching a books and searching the authors are all the non-functional requirement. The main functional requirement is to issue a books, that's it. So non-functional requirement is there will be a lot of things. So main constraints of the online library system is to issue a books to the student. So this is, you can take it that as an example. So here one more example they have given what we have studied in the case studies, mental health care patient management system. A user shall be able to search the appointment list for all the clinics. So there will be a user, that is mental health patient, should list out the appointment in all the clinics. That is a functional requirement. The system shall generate each day for each clinic a list of patients who are expected to attend appointment that day. Each staff member using the system shall be uniquely identified by his or 8-digit employee number. These are all the functional requirements for the mental health care management system. Requirement imprecision. Problems arises when requirements are not precisely stated. Ambiguous requirements may be interpreted in different ways by the developers and the users. Consider the term search in the requirement. 1. User intention, developer interpretation. So this is not requirement. There is this is what example I have taken in the mental health care management based system. They describe the requirement imprecision in detail. So requirement completeness and consistency. In the principle, requirement should be both completely and consistency. In the functional requirement, the Requirement should be complete and consistent. They should be not ambiguous, unambiguous. That is not what for what purpose software has been designed. It's not working for that. Then it will be incomplete, and there will be a problem for the end users. There should be no conflict and contradiction in the description of the system facilities. In practice, it is impossible to produce a complete and consistent requirement document. So, non-functional requirement. This defines the system properties and limitation, reliability, response time, storage requirement, constraints, or input-output device capabilities. So, non-functional requirements can be at time. That is what time or what type of service has to be provided, what time, or 24/7, or whether it has to provide time, there is services from the morning 8 to evening 8. There is time constraints will be given, and storage requirement, whether there is, if any shortage of the storages for the product or the system, or all comes under the non-functional requirements. And response, how fast it is response, that all comes under the non-functional requirements. Process requirements may be specified mandating a particular IDE, programming languages, or a development method. So these are all been designed using IDE programming languages. Non-functional requirements may be more critical than the functional requirements. Obviously, if the service is not provided in time, or storage requirements or storage limits is crossed, then there will be leads to a problem. Even though non-functional requirements for non-functional requirement is critical than the functional requirements, so it should be met. Otherwise, it will lead to a major problem, a great problem. If they are not met, the system may be useless. Of course, if the non-functional requirements not met, then there will be system will be no use. So this is what the non-functional requirements diagrams. In the non-functional requirements, product requirement, organization requirement, and external requirements. In the product requirements, so consider your VTU website itself, or VTU results as a non-functional. In the functional requirement, the main functional requirement is to give the result to the customer. There is a product requirement. There is efficiency. The efficiency should be, of course, if it crosses a, if it is within 100 users, then the efficiency should be better than the if the users more than 100. So that efficiency, because it has been designed only for the 100 user, means for 100, within 100 user, its efficiency should be given, should be work properly, and performance as well as space, because it's designed only for the 100 user, means if the space should also, there should be no problem. If it is reaches more than 100, then all these problems will be occur. So dependability and giving a security to the product, that is the main constraints of the non-functional requirement. External requirements, that is some ethical regulation should be followed while designing a non-functional requirements. So for example, if the product is being designed for the VTU, so their rules and regulation should be stick on to the software. So that should be foreseen in the external requirements. And safety is also be given to the external requirements. So organizational requirements, there is operational requirement as well as development requirement, so which is designed only for the particular organization. So their operational, how it is been operated, whether it is given services for 24/7, or whether it is being given services for only for the weekly 5 days, depending on the organizational requirement, the product should be designed. So these are the different types of the non-functional. The non-functional classification, we have product requirements, organization requirement, external requirements. So in the product requirements, so you can consider a VTU website. For a VTU website, if it is able to see the results 100 user at a time, so if it is more than one user, there will be a problem in the execution speed. So that should not be happen, because if they have been designed only for the 100 user, means 100 user more. If there is more process more than 100 user, there will be problem, such a way that they have designed the product. Organizational requirement, that is nothing but based on the policies of the organization or the product has been designed for that organization, this process standards has to be implemented in the non-functional classification. And the external requirements, there will be some set of policies or legislative requirements has to be followed whenever you are designing a product. So for example, in some of the organization CMM5 level, CMM3 level, so the standards has to be followed. For example, in engineering college, national board accreditation is there. So the college which has been accredited to NBA, there will be some standards has to be met by the uh, colleges for to be met. So by seeing to that NBA, then you can decide how the college has been rated in an country. So this is what external requirement. So there are some metrics has to be measured for non-functional requirements. What are the metrics? Speed, size, ease of use, reliability, robustness, portability. So non-functional requirements. See, these are the around the 6 metrics are being used to specify the non-functional requirements. So speed, so processor, transaction, second users, event response time, screen refresh time. For example, the product, if it is been designed for the 100 users, so if you refresh, so what time it get refreshes, the speed of the product, what is the speed. So all these things will be measured in the non-functional requirements, how it is been measured by speed, size. So size and easy of use, number of help frame, how many help frames have been used to design the non-functional requirements. Robustness, time to restart after failure, if the product is get problem, so then at what time it gets restarts, and how it has been failure has been solved is being checked in the robustness. And portability, percentage of the dependent users is being checked in the portability. Mean time failure, so how many times the system is got failure has been checked in the reliability. So if the failure is get more, then there is a reliability is very less, and has been checked. And easy size, so how many bytes is been used by the product is been checked in the using a size. So these are the 6 metrics have been used to measure the non-requirement for non-functional requirements. So next comes to the software requirement documents. So once the software requirement document is official statement of what the system or what is required by the developer or system developer, should include both the definition of the user requirements and the specification of the system requirements. User requirement, for the there is for the client, and specification of the system requirement is what is required for the development of the product is being checked. So third one is, it is not a design document. As far as possible, it should be set of what system should do rather than the how it should be do. So you can see the some of the users of the requirement document: system customers, managers, system engineers, system test engineering, system maintenance engineering. So in the system, customers specify requirement and read them to check that they met their needs. Customers specify the changes to the requirement, that is the system customers. Manager uses the requirements document to plan a bid for the system and to plan the system developer process. So in this manager, what it does, there will be some around 4 to 5 teams. So he will plan a document, so which team able to design the product for the customers. So bidding, so how many users, how many developers is required, and at what time able to deliver a product. So that all been decided by the manager, and for that there will be separate document is been maintained. And system engineering uses the requirements to understand what system is to be developed by the is being maintained by the system engineering. System test engineering uses the requirements to develop and validation test for the system. So once the software is been developed, it has to be checked whether it has been met for the customer requirement or not. It's been used by the system test engineering. There is separate document is been designed by the system test engineering. So next, system maintenance and engineering. There will be uses a requirement to understand the systems and the relationship between its parts. And for this, there will be separate document will be maintained by the system maintenance engineer. And all these users requirement document, they will be having a separate document to develop a software product. So they are given 5 examples. So each one will be having a separate document to maintain the to develop the software before giving to the design and implementation team. Requirement document variability. Information in requirement document depends on type of system and the approach to the development user. Systems developed incrementally typically have a less detail in the requirement document. So in the document we will have a very less information. So since the development of a software is very incrementally, that is step by step, so there will be a very less requirement document before developing the product. So requirement document standards have been designed in IEEE standards. These are mostly applicable to the requirements for large systems engineering project. So there have been given some standards before developing a software. The document should be in particular format. Which is the particular format? They use IEEE standards. So you can see your textbook also. They are formed in IEEE standards itself. First it was a glossary, contents, then introduction chapter wise, then at last appendix. So this is what the format is being given by the international. The same standards. This is IEEE, nothing but International Electrical and Electronic Engineering Standards. So you can see some structure. First one is a chapter preface, introduction, glossary, user requirement definition, system architecture, system requirement specification, system module, system evolution, appendix, indexes. So these are the chapters that has been followed in the structure of the requirement document before developing a product. So they as per as a customer requirement, they have to maintain it in a documented before delivering to the development team. So development team, so this is nothing but a specification. So our requirement specification. So requirement specification team has to maintain a document and how this is the format they have given by the IEEE standard. In the preface step, in the preface chapter, this should define the expected readership of the document and describe its version history, including a rationale for the creation of new version and summary of the change made in each version. So preface is given by readership of the document and describe its version history. So previously, if any of the product is been designed in this institution or in this company, so is version previously which version is being used by the user and what are the changes is required. In the preface, there is a brief description will be given in the preface. Introduction is describes need for the system. You should briefly describe the system function and explain how it will work. Is given in the introduction. Glossary, some technical terms have been included in the glossary. User requirement definition, describe the services provided to the users is been defined in the user requirement and definition. System architecture, the overall architecture of a system, that is development of a product, is been designed in the given the description in the system architecture. System requirement specification, to design a product, what are the requirement of the system is designed, given a brief description in the, that is functional and non-functional requirement is been designed in the given in the system requirement specification. So after getting the system the functional and non-functional requirement, the next is a system module. So whether it is a waterfall model, whether it is incremental model, whether it is a spiral model, has been designed in the system modules. So next it is system evolution. So what are the changes is required after the system module in future is been given brief description in the system evolution, likely future changes to the system. So appendix, they should provide detailed and specific information that's related to the application, being for example hardware, what type of hardware, database description, and minimal configuration of an hardware, and what type of database is used. All those things will be given in the appendix. And index, several indices to the document we included, as well as normal alphabetical indices, some diagrammatical or some functions, and so on have been included in the index. Yeah, so these are the structure of the requirement document. So I will be wind up this video session in this structure of the requirement documents, and we'll move on to the next video session in the next class. Thank you.